The Ten Commandments are one of the most well-known and significant parts of the Bible, forming the foundation of moral teachings and legal norms in Judaism, Christianity, and even Islam. The commandments were first given to Moses on Mount Sinai and transmitted to the Jewish people, becoming a moral code by which many generations have lived their lives. But how do these ancient principles relate to our modern society, where moral and ethical standards are constantly changing? Are the Ten Commandments still relevant in today's reality? Today, we will examine each commandment and discuss its meaning and application in the modern world. First commandment: I am the Lord your God, you shall have no other gods before me. The first commandment reminds us of faithfulness and devotion to one God. In the context of modern society, it can be interpreted as a call to uphold moral principles and respect for one's convictions, regardless of religious beliefs. Although many people today may not be religious, this commandment can be rephrased as a commitment to one's ideals and values, avoiding false priorities such as materialism or the thirst for power. Second commandment: you shall not make for yourself a carved image. This commandment prohibits the worship of idols and the creation of graven images. In today's world, this can be interpreted as a warning against making material objects, money, fame, and success one's main goal. In a consumer society, it is important to remember that true values are not always tied to material goods and that the pursuit of accumulation should not replace personal and spiritual development. Third commandment: you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. In the past, this commandment concerned respect for the name of God and prohibiting its use in vain or false promises. Today, it can be broadened to include respect for the religious and spiritual beliefs of others, as well as being cautious in our use of language and speech. It is important to recognize the power of words and their impact on others and not to use them for manipulation. Slander or hate. Fourth commandment: remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. Traditionally, this commandment implies a day of rest dedicated to spiritual growth. In our fast-paced world, where workaholism has become the norm, observing a day of rest remains extremely important. This commandment reminds us of the necessity to find time for ourselves, our families, and reflection on life priorities, without forgetting the importance of rest and taking care of our mental and physical health. Fifth commandment: honor your father and your mother. The commandment to honor one's parents is relevant in every age. Today, when generations often face a divide in values and worldviews, it is important to remember the role of family and respect for elders. Honoring parents involves not only gratitude for their labor and care but also understanding and supporting them in their old age. In modern society, this can also mean respecting all those who have played a role in our upbringing and development. Sixth commandment: you shall not murder. This commandment remains one of the most evident moral principles, the value of human life. However, in a modern context, it also includes the fight against violence, cruelty, and hatred in any form. The commandment "you shall not murder" can be seen as a call to reject any form of aggression, whether physical, emotional, or verbal. Seventh commandment: you shall not commit adultery. The commandment against adultery emphasizes the importance of fidelity and honesty in relationships. In an era where infidelity and relationship breakdowns have unfortunately become commonplace, this commandment highlights the significance of trust and respect between partners. Adultery not only destroys families but also leaves deep emotional wounds, making this commandment particularly relevant in discussions about building healthy relationships. Eighth commandment: you shall not steal. The commandment, "you shall not steal," speaks not only about the prohibition of theft but also about broader aspects of honesty and fairness. In today's world, this commandment may encompass issues of intellectual property, fraud, corruption, and any forms of deception. It is important to recognize that stealing is not just about material appropriation but also about violating trust and justice in society. Ninth commandment: you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Bearing false witness is not merely lying, but distorting the truth with the intent to harm another person. Today, This commandment is relevant in the context of fake news, misinformation, and manipulation of public opinion. Honesty and truthfulness remain key principles for maintaining trust in society and in relationships between people. 10th Commandment: You shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. The final commandment speaks to the prohibition of envy and greed. In modern society, where people often compare themselves to others and strive for material success, envy can become a destructive force. This commandment teaches us to be content with what we have and to strive for happiness and success based on our own values and accomplishments, rather than in comparison to others. Although the 10 Commandments were given thousands of years ago, they continue to serve as the foundation of moral and ethical principles for many people around the world. These commandments can be interpreted not only as religious precepts but also as universal rules of conduct that help us build a more just and respectful society. In the face of modern challenges and rapid changes, these commandments remind us of eternal values such as honesty, respect, fidelity, and love, which remain unchanged throughout the ages. The 10 Commandments as a moral compass in the modern world. Continuing with the theme, it is important to note that the 10 Commandments are often viewed as a universal moral compass, remaining relevant despite the advancement of technology, changes in social norms, and globalization. In an era when the boundaries between good and evil are often blurred, these commandments remind us of the necessity to adhere to fundamental principles that help preserve human dignity and justice. Modern society faces numerous moral and ethical dilemmas, including issues of social injustice, environmental degradation, economic inequality, and digital ethics. In light of these challenges, the 10 Commandments can be seen as a kind of guide that directs us in making the right decisions while maintaining a balance between personal interests and the common good. Applying the 10 Commandments in everyday life, let's consider a few examples of how the principles of the 10 Commandments can be applied in the everyday life of every individual in the modern world. 1. Personal responsibility. The commandments urge us towards self-discipline and accountability for our actions. In a society where the temptation to shift blame onto others or circumstances is common, this principle remains relevant. 2. Workplace ethics. Commandments such as, "You shall not steal," and "You shall not bear false witness," can be applied to professional ethics, including honesty, compliance with laws, and respect for colleagues. 3. Relationships in family and society. Commandments such as, "Honor your father and your mother," and "You shall not commit adultery," serve as a foundation for building strong and trusting relationships within the family and among loved ones. 4. Social justice and care for others. The commandment, "You shall not covet your neighbor's possessions," emphasizes the importance of combating envy and greed, which often underlies social and economic injustice. The 10 Commandments in the context of globalization and cultural diversity. In the age of globalization and intercultural interaction, the 10 Commandments can serve as a unifying principle that connects people of different religions and cultures. Although various peoples and traditions may have their own moral norms and religious prescriptions, the principles embedded in the 10 Commandments often resonate with most cultures around the world. Ideas of honesty, justice, respect, and care for others are universal values that play an important role in establishing peaceful and harmonious relationships among people. Even if individuals do not share the religious beliefs contained in the Bible, they can still find common principles in the 10 Commandments that contribute to well-being and peace. Digital age ethics and the 10 Commandments. The digital age and technological developments pose new ethical challenges to society, such as protecting personal data, cyberbullying, the spread of misinformation, and abuse of power online. The 10 Commandments can also be relevant in this context. "You shall not bear false witness" can be interpreted as a call to combat fake news, misinformation, and cyberbullying on social media. "You shall not steal" is applicable to issues of intellectual piracy, illegal copying, and distribution of content in the digital environment. "You shall not covet your neighbor's possessions" serves as a reminder of the importance of fulfilling one's own needs and aspirations without constantly comparing oneself to others in the face of pressure from social media and idealized lifestyles. In conclusion, it can be said that the 10 Commandments retain their significance even today, despite significant changes in society, science, and technology. These principles serve as a reminder that true human values remain unchanged, regardless of progress and changes in lifestyle. They help us maintain moral resilience, define the boundaries between good and evil, and build a society based on respect, justice, and love for others. Even in a world full of doubts and uncertainties, the 10 Commandments continue to serve as a moral guide that directs us in our choices, helps us build relationships with others, and maintain inner harmony. These are eternal principles that encourage us to strive for better and inspire us to create a more just and humane world. The application of the 10 Commandments in the educational process. Education is one of the key aspects of shaping future generations. The 10 Commandments can be integrated into educational programs as a foundation for discussing moral and ethical issues. It is important for the younger generation to understand not only the historical significance of the commandments but also their relevance in everyday life. Inclusion in school curricula. 1. Moral dilemmas. Educators can use the commandments as a starting point for discussing moral dilemmas that students may encounter in their lives. This will help students develop critical thinking skills and the ability to make informed decisions. 2. Cross-cultural studies. Comparing the 10 Commandments with other ethical systems from different cultures and religions can broaden students' perspectives and help them understand the universality of moral principles. 3. Community service. The commandments can serve as a basis for community service projects, where students strive to apply these principles within their communities, working towards improving the lives of those around them. Impact on upbringing. The 10 Commandments can also serve as a foundation for parenting. 1. Family values. Parents can use the commandments to discuss family values and their importance in relationships. This can help children understand the significance of honesty, trust, and respect. 2. Discussing difficult topics. The commandments can provide a framework for discussing themes such as honesty, faithfulness, and justice, allowing children to recognize the importance of these values in their lives. 3. Creating a moral compass. Raising children based on the 10 Commandments can help them develop a personal moral compass that will guide them in their decision-making. The 10 Commandments and public ethics. Social movements and organizations can also rely on the 10 Commandments when developing their ethical standards and principles. This can pertain to 1. Corporate social responsibility. Companies can use these commandments to shape their corporate culture, emphasizing respect, honesty, and fairness towards their employees, clients, and partners. 2. Inequality in social justice. Social movements fighting against racial, economic, and social injustice can draw inspiration from the commandments to highlight the value of every individual and the need to protect the rights and dignity of all. 3. Environmental ethics. The commandments can form the basis for developing principles of sustainable development and care for the planet, serving as a reminder of the importance of environmental responsibility in caring for the future. Practical application in life. Everyone can draw lessons from the 10 Commandments and apply them in their lives, contributing to the creation of a more harmonious and respectful society. 1. Self-reflection. Regularly evaluating one's actions and their alignment with the commandments can help individuals recognize their weaknesses and strive for improvement. 2. Adherence to honesty. This applies to both personal and professional relationships. Being honest in one's dealings and words is an important step towards building trust and respect in society. 3. Serving others. Encouraging mutual assistance and support among people can lead to the creation of a more cohesive and caring community. The timeless relevance of the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments remain relevant even in today's rapidly changing world. They remind us of the importance of moral and ethical norms that underpin human communication and interaction. These principles serve not only as a religious foundation but also as universal rules that can unite people of various cultures and faiths. The pursuit of respect, honesty, and love for one's neighbor can serve as the basis for building a just and humane world. Ultimately, the Ten Commandments call us to be the best versions of ourselves and actively contribute to creating a society founded on love, respect, and care for others, by reflecting on our actions and relationships. We can find a path to a deeper understanding of ourselves and those around us. Following the principles of the Ten Commandments, we have the power to change the world for the better. These commandments are not merely ancient prescriptions but living ideas that can inspire and guide us in our daily lives, providing a solid foundation for our moral and ethical growth.